Ever notice how some people just move through life with a calm energy that nothing and no one can shake? They're not cold, they're not careless, but they refuse to give their peace away to anyone. That kind of confidence is built, not born with. And if you want to reach that place where other people's opinions, drama, or negativity can't touch you, it comes down to learning a few powerful behaviors. These aren't about ignoring the world, they're about controlling how you respond to it. Let's break down the 5 behaviors that make you 100% unbothered by anyone. Stop giving away emotional control is one of the most powerful behaviors that separates someone who is easily shaken by the words and actions of others from someone who moves through life unbothered. When you give away your emotional control, you're essentially handing the keys to your peace and stability to whoever knows how to push your buttons. Think about how often people let a single comment ruin their whole day, or how they allow another person's mood to dictate how they feel. That's not strength, that's surrender. And the more you surrender, the less of yourself you actually own. Emotional control means you decide how you feel, how you react, and how long you allow something to stay in your mind. It is not about pretending things don't affect you. It's about not letting those things drive you. The moment you stop handing out your emotional control like it's free candy, you start to become untouchable. People can say what they want, do what they want, but if you are grounded in yourself, none of it gets to you. A lot of people confuse emotional control with being emotionless. That's not the case. You can feel deeply, you can care, you can even be angry or hurt, but emotional control is the ability to process those feelings without letting them drag you into places you don't want to go. It's the difference between someone cutting you off in traffic and you letting it ruin your entire commute versus noticing it, taking a breath, and moving on with your day. When you give that driver your emotional control, you're basically saying, "You win, my peace is now in your hands." But when you hold on to it, you're reminding yourself that your energy is too valuable to waste on someone who doesn't even know your name. This principle applies in every part of life. At work, when a coworker takes credit for something you did, you can either spiral into anger and gossip, or you can choose to address it calmly. Protect your reputation with clarity and still keep your peace intact. In relationships, when someone tries to provoke you with criticism or digs, you can either blow up and fuel the fire, or you can calmly stand your ground without giving them the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. That's what emotional control looks like in action. The truth is, people will always test you, sometimes without even realizing it. They will throw comments, they will try to get a reaction, they will measure their power based on how quickly you break. But when you stop giving away emotional control, you're showing them they don't have that kind of access. You're not shutting down. You're not being cold. You're simply deciding that your inner world is not for sale. This shift changes how people interact with you because when they realize they can't pull you into drama, they eventually stop trying. They learn that your peace is not negotiable, and that's when respect grows. Emotional control also makes you more consistent, and consistency is a rare strength. People may not like you, but they'll know you can't be shaken, and that level of stability creates an unspoken authority wherever you go. Another important part of not giving away your emotional control is self-awareness. You have to know your triggers. You have to know the exact things people say or do that usually set you off, and then prepare yourself to handle them differently next time. It's like rewiring your mind to no longer respond on autopilot. When you're aware, you can pause, you can think, and you can remind yourself that no one deserves to pull you out of character. Self-awareness lets you reclaim your time and energy because instead of spending hours replaying what someone said or how they treated you, you redirect that focus onto yourself and your goals. Over time, you realize that the less control you give others, the more control you gain over your own life. Master the pause before you respond is one of the most underrated yet life-changing skills when it comes to being truly unbothered. Most people live in reaction mode. Someone says something rude, they snap back without thinking. Someone makes a sarcastic comment, they immediately feel the need to defend themselves. That constant knee-jerk reaction is exactly what drains your energy and hands power to other people. The pause is where your strength lives because it gives you a moment to step back, process, and decide how you want to handle the situation instead of letting the situation handle you. That small space between what happens and how you react is where self-control, wisdom, and peace are built. Without the pause, you become predictable, easily provoked, and easily manipulated. With the pause, you are calm, in charge, and untouchable. You begin to realize that not every comment deserves a response, not every jab deserves your time, and not every moment requires your energy. The pause is what allows you to separate what matters from what doesn't. The power of the pause comes from slowing down your emotions long enough to let your logic catch up. When you're angry, embarrassed, or defensive, your instinct is to react instantly, to fight back, or to prove a point. But when you pause, even for just 3 seconds, you allow your brain to filter through the noise and focus on what outcome you actually want. For example, in a heated argument, pausing can stop you from saying words you'll regret later. In a workplace situation, pausing before replying to an email can stop you from sending something unprofessional that damages your credibility. Even in day-to-day conversations, that pause can help you realize that some comments don't even deserve a response at all. By mastering the pause, you're not ignoring your emotions, you're managing them in a way that benefits you instead of sabotages you. This is how people begin to see you as steady and composed. Because while others are quick to lash out, you are measured, thoughtful, and calm. Another reason the pause is so powerful is because it frustrates people who want to control you. When someone tries to push your buttons, they expect you to react instantly. They want to see you get angry, flustered, or defensive, because that reaction tells them they have influence over you. But when you pause, when you take your time and stay composed, you deny them that satisfaction. You're not meeting their energy, you're not falling into their trap, and that alone is enough to throw them off balance. The pause becomes a silent statement that says, I'm not here to play your game. This creates a shift in dynamics because people realize they can't get to you as easily as they thought. It's a form of quiet power, and the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. The pause also makes you unpredictable in the best way possible. Instead of being someone who reacts exactly how people expect, you become someone who chooses your responses with intention, and that makes you impossible to control. The pause is also a gift you give yourself. It creates room for reflection and better choices. In that space, you can ask yourself questions like, does this even deserve my energy? Will this matter tomorrow? Or is silence the better response here? Sometimes the strongest response you can give is no response at all, and the pause helps you recognize those moments. Other times, the pause gives you just enough clarity to respond with calm authority instead of emotional chaos. Over time, you start to notice that life feels lighter when you don't jump into every battle, when you don't react to every slight, and when you don't let people rush you into emotional decisions. The pause keeps you grounded in your values because instead of being pulled into someone else's storm, you decide how you want to show up. It's a discipline that transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. You begin to trust your ability to stay calm under pressure, to stand steady when provoked, and to respond in ways that protect your peace instead of destroy it. Protect your boundaries with consistency is the behavior that keeps your peace safe from being invaded by other people's demands, negativity, or control. A lot of people think boundaries are just something you set once, like drawing a line in the sand and expecting everyone to respect it. But the truth is, boundaries only work when you enforce them consistently every single time. If you set a boundary but allow people to cross it when you feel guilty or afraid of upsetting them, then that boundary doesn't exist. Consistency is what gives boundaries their strength because it shows both you and others that you mean what you say. When you are inconsistent, you send mixed signals and people will test you over and over again. But when you are consistent, people learn quickly that your peace, your time, and your energy are not negotiable. Protecting your boundaries is not about being harsh, it is about being clear and firm, because the clearer you are about what you will and won't allow, the easier it is to live unbothered. One of the reasons boundaries feel difficult to enforce is because we often fear people's reactions. You might worry that saying no will make someone dislike you, that standing firm will make you look selfish, or that holding people accountable will create conflict. But the reality is, avoiding those tough moments only creates bigger problems in the long run. Every time you ignore a boundary, you teach people that it is okay to take advantage of your kindness, your time, or your patience. Protecting your boundaries consistently may cause some discomfort in the moment, but it prevents you from carrying the heavy weight of resentment later. For example, if someone constantly interrupts your personal time with unnecessary requests, the first time you let it slide, they will think it's acceptable. The second time you allow it, they will assume it's normal. By the third time, they will expect it as their right. But if from the very beginning you protect your boundary and say, I can't do that right now, or I need this time for myself, then over time they stop even asking because they know where you stand. Consistency with boundaries also changes how you see yourself. When you protect your space firmly and regularly, you begin to trust yourself more. You realize that you don't have to sacrifice your peace to make everyone else happy. This self-trust builds confidence, because you know you can count on yourself to stand up for what matters to you. And confidence is what makes you unbothered, because instead of being consumed with fear of what others think, you are focused on what you need to stay balanced. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors with locks that you control. You decide who enters, how long they stay, and under what conditions. But if you leave the door wide open without rules, you can't be surprised when people walk all over your space. Protecting your boundaries consistently means you don't just lock the door sometimes and leave it wide open other times. You keep control of the lock at all times, and people eventually respect that. What many people don't realize is that the people who resist your boundaries the most are often the ones who benefited from you not having them in the first place. They liked it when you always said yes, when you let things slide, when you put their needs above your own. So when you finally start protecting your boundaries with consistency, they may get upset, frustrated, or even try to guilt you. But their reaction doesn't mean your boundary is wrong, it means it is working. Over time, those who truly value you will adjust and respect your limits, while those who only wanted to take advantage will drift away. Either way, you win, because you are no longer tied down by people who drain you. Consistent boundaries filter out who belongs in your life and who doesn't. They protect your energy so you can focus on your own growth, your own goals, and your own peace. The most important part of consistency is understanding that it is not about perfection. There will be moments where you slip, moments where you let something slide because you're tired or caught off guard. The key is not to beat yourself up, but to get back on track as quickly as possible. Each time you stand firm again, you reinforce your boundary and strengthen your resolve. Eventually, it becomes second nature. People stop even testing you because they know exactly where you stand and that you won't bend. That's the power of consistency. It teaches people how to treat you, it teaches you how to value yourself, and it makes it nearly impossible for anyone to shake your peace. The stronger your boundaries, the lighter your life feels, because you are no longer carrying everyone else's weight on your shoulders, and that freedom is what makes you unbothered in the truest sense. Choose confidence over comparison is one of the most important behaviors that makes you unbothered, because comparison is one of the quickest ways to drain your peace and weaken your sense of self. When you constantly measure your life, your looks, your success, or your value against other people, you hand over your happiness to an endless race you can never win. There will always be someone with more money, a different lifestyle, a different body, or a different kind of attention. And the moment you allow their situation to define your worth, you've already lost. Confidence, on the other hand, is not about being the best in the room. It is about being comfortable with who you are in the room. It's knowing your strengths, accepting your flaws, and refusing to let someone else's highlight reel make you doubt your own progress. Choosing confidence over comparison makes you unbothered because it means you've decided that your self-worth comes from within, not from how you stack up against someone else. Comparison thrives on insecurity, and insecurity thrives on distraction. You look at someone else's achievements and forget the battles they fought to get there. You see the surface, but not the struggles, and that distorted lens convinces you that you're behind. Confidence dismantles that lie by reminding you that you're on your own timeline. The truth is, no one else is living your exact life with your exact challenges, opportunities, and path. The moment you embrace that, you realize how pointless comparison really is. Confidence lets you admire others without envying them. It lets you celebrate someone else's success without making it a threat to your own. It keeps you grounded because you know what you bring to the table and you stop wasting energy trying to match someone else's plate. That shift is what makes people unshakable because once you no longer measure yourself against others, no one has the power to make you feel small. Another powerful thing about choosing confidence over comparison is how it changes the way you carry yourself. When you're stuck in comparison, you shrink, you second guess, and you hesitate because you're worried about being judged. But when you choose confidence, you step into rooms differently. You walk with certainty, you speak with clarity, and you project an energy that says you're secure in who you are. People respond to that energy because confidence is magnetic. It draws respect without you demanding it. And the best part is, confidence doesn't mean you think you're perfect. It means you've stopped apologizing for not being perfect. It's the quiet acceptance that who you are is enough, and that self-acceptance makes you immune to the noise of comparison. Confidence also gives you freedom because it frees you from the constant cycle of proving yourself. When you live in comparison, you're always chasing validation, always trying to prove that you're worthy by matching or outdoing someone else. That lifestyle leaves you exhausted because no matter what you achieve, there will always be someone doing more. But when you live with confidence, you no longer feel the need to prove anything. You set your goals based on your values, not based on someone else's scoreboard. You celebrate wins because they matter to you, not because they make you look good in front of others. That is where peace comes from, because you stop living for an audience and start living for yourself. And when you live for yourself, you become unbothered by who's ahead, who's behind, or who's watching. The hardest part about choosing confidence over comparison is retraining your mind. Comparison is a habit that gets fed every time you scroll through social media, every time you look at someone else's life and immediately measure it against yours. To break that, you have to catch yourself in the act and redirect. Instead of saying, why don't I have that? You start asking, what do I have that I can be grateful for? Instead of saying, I wish I looked like them, you remind yourself of the qualities that make you unique. This mental shift doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, it becomes second nature. And as you build this mindset, your confidence grows stronger, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you're no longer competing with them. You're running your own race, and when you're focused on your own lane, you stop being distracted by what's happening in someone else's. The beauty of choosing confidence over comparison is that it creates stability. When you know your worth, you don't get shaken by criticism, you don't get jealous of other people's wins, and you don't get desperate for validation. You stay centered, steady, and secure. That steadiness is what makes you unbothered, because nothing outside of you has the power to dictate how you feel inside. Confidence makes you your own anchor, and when you are your own anchor, no storm of comparison can pull you away from your peace. Prioritize peace over proving a point is a behavior that instantly separates those who get dragged into every argument from those who stay unshaken no matter what. Most people feel the need to prove themselves at every turn. They want to have the last word in an argument. They want to correct every misunderstanding. They want to convince everyone to see things their way. But the problem with constantly trying to prove a point is that it steals your energy, consumes your time, and gives people access to your emotions that they never deserved in the first place. When you prioritize peace, you're saying, my inner calm is more valuable than being right in someone else's eyes. You don't need to win every debate or respond to every challenge because you understand that peace is a win in itself. People who prioritize peace over proving a point are not weak, they are wise because they know how much energy is wasted in battles that don't matter. One of the most common traps people fall into is the desire to correct every single misconception others have about them. Someone spreads a rumor, and suddenly you feel the urge to fight back and defend your name. Someone misunderstands your intentions, and you feel the need to explain yourself over and over until they finally see your side. But here's the truth. The people committed to misunderstanding you will never see your side, no matter how many explanations you give. The people who truly know you don't need endless explanations because your character already speaks for itself. The more you chase validation through proving a point, the more you hand your peace to those who want to control it. Prioritizing peace means accepting that not everyone deserves an explanation. Not every rumor deserves your attention, and not every false perception is your job to fix. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay silent and let time reveal the truth. Another layer to this is how prioritizing peace actually makes you more powerful in conflicts. When you argue to prove a point, you're emotionally invested, and people can sense that investment as weakness. They know you care about winning, and they use it to pull you deeper into their game. But when you stay calm and prioritize peace, you take away their control. They can shout, insult, or try to provoke you, but if you remain steady and refuse to engage, they lose their grip. That composure is intimidating because it shows that you are not desperate for approval or validation. You don't need to convince them of anything because your self-worth doesn't hang on their opinion. And the irony is, when you stop trying so hard to prove your point, people often end up respecting you more because they see that you cannot be baited into unnecessary drama. Peace is also a choice that protects your mental and emotional health. Constantly trying to prove yourself creates stress, anxiety, and resentment. It keeps you overthinking every word you said, replaying conversations, and regretting things you blurted out in the heat of the moment. Choosing peace allows you to let go of that cycle. Instead of replaying the argument, you move forward. Instead of regretting what you said, you feel content with what you didn't say. Peace is not about being passive, it's about being intentional. It means you decide which battles are worth your energy and which ones aren't. And most of the time, you'll find that silence is more powerful than words. When you master this, you realize that peace is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of self-control. The challenge with prioritizing peace is that it requires humility. It requires being okay with people thinking you lost, being okay with not having the last word, being okay with someone believing something about you that isn't true. That's hard, because ego always wants to defend itself, but true strength is found in restraint, not reaction. When you choose peace, you're not losing, you're protecting something more valuable than pride. You're protecting your stability, your energy, and your focus. The person who learns to walk away with calmness is far stronger than the one who shouts the loudest to be heard. Over time, people start to notice that you don't get dragged into arguments, you don't chase validation, and you don't need to prove yourself, and that unbothered energy speaks louder than any words ever could. Prioritizing peace over proving a point also builds trust in yourself. It shows you that you can resist the temptation to react, that you can control your impulses, and that you can value your well-being over your ego. That self-trust becomes a foundation you can rely on in every situation because you know you don't need to fight every battle to know your worth. The world is filled with people desperate to be right, desperate to be validated, desperate to prove themselves, and they end up exhausted and bitter because of it. But when you rise above that and protect your peace, you step into a higher level of control. You become the person who chooses their energy wisely, who doesn't need the crowd's approval, and who refuses to be pulled into meaningless fights. And that kind of discipline is what makes someone truly unbothered by anyone